Attention is the only currency that is more valuable than money because it is where you put your time and energy. Have you ever gotten lost in mindless activities and wondered where all of your attention has gone? Have you gotten caught in that dreaded doom scrolling online and wondered where your time went? Have you ever felt energetically drained afterwards and not understood why that was? It is so easy for us to get caught up in distractions and not realize how long we're glued to something. And then we'll just wonder, where did all of our time go? And you wonder, well, I have this goal that I want to finish, but I get sidetracked into something else. And how do I stay focused? And it happens to all of us. We know that in living in today's world, everything and everyone is trying to pull our attention. And it's that attention that is the currency that is what we need to be concerned with. And so I really want to make a case today about going within and not only just focusing on the things that you want in the exterior world, but taking the time to go within, building up this spiritual wealth, and realizing that that currency, no money can buy. That is the real currency. Where it is that we place our intentions and our real value is where we hold our attention. So where we place our intentions and where we put our attention is what creates a divide between who is successful and who is not, who is in the arena and who is sitting on the sidelines. So more specifically, when we turn that attention inward and we learn how to take our knowledge and we convert it into wisdom, we build an interior wealth that really creates our own personal spirituality. So I want to define really quickly that the Oxford Dictionary defines spiritual as relating to or affecting the human spirit or soul, as opposed to material or physical things. Pretty easy. And spirituality is the sense of feeling or believing that you're connected to something greater in the world, greater than yourself. I take this a step further, and I like to define spiritual as being in ritual with spirit and being in this active engagement in one's spirit while tapping into the universal source of life. This is what energy healers do as well, being able to tap into that source of energy, that life source that creates all of life, and be able to direct it in ways to help heal another person. And so you can call this whatever that you like that aligns with your practice and ideology, but I believe that there's a really importance of having a spiritual practice, whatever that means for you. But it helps create an inner wealth that is the highest value of currency that each one of us can hold. And if you might think about a person, and maybe this is you, when you hold this light inside of you, you can see it shining throughout, and it's undeniable. It's undeniable when it shines from within. And you can kind of see that there's a connection possibly to a higher source, not that we really know what people are thinking when they're walking around, but we can just see that light shine within them. And we always want to know, how do we get that? How do we get that? And this is how we get this. We really have to create a practice that helps us develop this. And it allows us to deepen our understanding of our own value. And it becomes the wellspring of confidence. And that's the most expensive thing you'll ever carry around with you in the world. This is what sets our standards in place, our values in place, and it has this ripple effect that goes out into the world. And that then creates tangible wealth. So it's not really about attracting money. It's about shifting ourselves into a frequency of being valuable, of feeling worthy, and that then starts to attract all levels and all versions of abundance around us. And so we can start to shift the perspective that money quickly turns into a vessel for us to just exchange and trade things. And nowadays, if you ever look at anyone who's of influence, it's the audience that they have to leverage. So it is the currency of everyone else's attention on them that gets converted into things. So that's how valuable your own attention is. And it's just being mindful of where it is that you want to place it. So which means, like, when we hold our attention, that becomes the new currency. And that's where we want to place it. So it's the biggest asset that you're ever going to have, where you want to place your attention, and you want to spend it inward. And by building up a spiritual wealth and doing what excites you the most and putting thoughtful intentions into the work that you love, you can start to transform and alchemize these simple desires into a newfound inner wealth, a sense of purpose and meaning that you yourself are starting to carve out for yourself, because you can start to see the connection you have with source, the connection that you have in the world, and what values that you bring to the table that you can start to cultivate out and possibly even serve a group of people. And that is the glow up that you're looking for. That helps, allow a mindset shift. That helps allow a physical shift. That helps allow an emotional shift. We're bringing that all together through our own personal spirituality, whether you leverage actual spiritual text or you just know how to go within and connect. All of it is beneficial. And it's that shining of that inner light that is that kind of vibrational frequency. No money can buy that. You cannot fake that. You know when someone really has that within them. And so when we're connected to something greater than ourselves and greater into the universe, that internal light is activated and it fuels everything in our lives. And when we think about creating a life with purpose, we want to have a motive and intention behind it. And even just knowing that you're connected in a certain way, that you just intrinsically have value because you're here, that's enough motivation and intention behind doing something that's even great. And then we can start to target that energy, that life force and attention in the right direction. And the right direction are things that we want to accomplish in our lives. And because we only have so much time on this earth, we want to be really mindful of where we focus our attention, and we want to put them on the things that we really want to do. And my friends, we're living in a time like no other. We have a larger hand in creating our own reality, and that is such a luxury in itself. And the idea of looking at wealth in terms of cultivating a spiritual life and looking at where we put our attention is where we can take the time to go within, know who we really are. And I believe that's the main key, the one key ingredient, really, to feeling real wealth and truly feeling abundant. Nobody can take that from you. It's that specific feeling of abundance and having that rich interior world that leads to a deeper connection with self. And the best relationship that we know we'll ever have is with ourselves. And it's that centered around, that relationship centered around compassion, having a commitment for growth, and cultivating real unconditional love for oneself along the bumpy road of life as we learn. And as we start to internally build that relationship, and we can reduce the inner struggles, we can start to manifest the material world, right? A lot of times when we get stuck in our limiting beliefs, and we all have this, the self-doubt, the negative talk, it's that relationship. So if we're cultivating something rich within and we're able to connect and we're able to move through that dialogue in a really profound way, everything's going to have a ripple effect out of that. So while these qualities are invisible, they really are the cornerstone to character building that breeds all other aspects of wealth, right? And they hit on all these different areas of life. And there are 8 main areas of life that tend to that are things that we want to focus on. So if we build this spiritual wealth and this new type of currency, they're going to hit our financial, social, relational, experiential, professional, emotional, physical, and mental areas of life. It's sort of that inner cup that we fill up and it overflows into all of these different aspects. And so building your spiritual life is your spiritual wealth, and it does have a ripple effect. So let's break this down. I always like to break this down as simple as possible so that these methods feel easy to step into, and then you can deepen them, you can make them more complex, you can use them, but they're just simple 3 methods to start developing a spiritual wealth. And I think the key here is that we're doing this on a daily basis. And you see over time, and hopefully even quicker than that, is that you see the value immediately and why you would want to do this in the first place. So the first one is observation. And these are going to sound simple, and they're supposed to. I want you to think about them. So this is also the biggest benefit of meditating, that we're able to sit still or even in a moving meditation and be able to observe what's going on in the mind. And while it may be difficult at times to practice traditional meditation, what the key here is observing what happens during the day. How are we connecting with ourselves? How are we connecting with the world around us? How are we connecting with the natural world around us as well? And so if we start with a very clear intention or affirmation in the morning, and possibly connecting to that higher source if that feels appropriate for you, then we can start to observe, how do we continue that connection throughout the day? And things come up for us, right? Things happen. So sometimes things will push us off course. What do we do? How did we handle it? How do we get back on track? How do we remind ourselves to get back into that intention and that alignment? And so we want to create a practice where we're not blindly following an intention or affirmation where we're just kind of putting a band-aid on. Okay, I had this mess up. I'm just going to go back and say the affirmation, which is good. But I think it's also really important to note what's making you upset and what's taking you off course so that you're observing your nature and you're learning your tendencies and you're learning how to build compassion for yourself, which I think is really huge. And so we want to observe but not judge. And we want to start understanding that internal dialogue so that when the emotions come up, we're not just shoving them down, we can actually address them and we can move through them. I think sometimes we tend to hold on to the emotion because we don't know what to do with it. They're just messengers that have to come through. And so we want to get back to focusing our attention in the right ways. And so being able to really non-judgmentally observe what's happening inside of us and that inner dialogue that's happening, we're able to then understand what is it that we need to keep attention and focus on, which is the thing that we wanted to do, or if something comes up, how do we process it? How do we deal with it? And then get back to where we want to put that expensive currency, that attention, that energy, and building that spiritual wealth, right? So the second method, and they kind of build on each other, would be having honest reflections, right? So I'm observing what's coming up, and I'm going to sit and understand why, just for a little bit, just to kind of get the sense of the nature, work on it as best I can, and then move forward, move past it. So this is really great. I think journaling is really great for this one. And the goal is to see what are the stories that are playing out in the mind. And I like journaling a lot because if we don't take them out of the mind and we put them on pen and paper, these stories can start to swim around like dangerous sharks in the mind. And they're just waiting to attack. And what we want to do is have these observations and understand our tendencies. So we know our triggers, we know our weak points, we know how to basically co-parent or reparent ourselves when things start to unravel. We just need certain things, and then we can start giving ourselves the care that we need. And this goes back to self-love. This goes back to making sure that we're responding in the right way, we're regulating our nervous system, we're regulating our emotions because we're not judging ourselves. We're not putting ourselves down for having the emotion that comes up. We're just really learning how to be compassionate. And we're learning how to have a compassionate conversation and call ourselves out without any belittlement, but for the betterment of ourselves, right? And this is a great place to also deepen meditation. If you're being called to look at any sort of spiritual text or just any kind of writing or poetry or anything that just feels in alignment that kind of helps give another perspective, great place to do this as well. Maybe look around, maybe see if there's something that you really do love to look at or something new that might turn you open into some other perspective of how to handle what you're going through in life. There's so much richness out there. And we're building in that currency of how do we help build ourselves up? How do we take care of ourselves and nurture the things that we need when we're designing a life that we love, when we're pursuing the things that we want, and we're starting to build the integrity within ourselves. When we can be honest and face our own truths, what is it that we need? What is it that we're not getting? And we don't really sit in that sense of lack. We don't sit in a sense of feeling limited because we're building a solid foundation of self-trust. And so when we build this up, we can really move through any doubtful or nervous feelings and really get into the situations that we want. And we're able to gain clarity on understanding why we do the things that we do and adjust accordingly, which I think is the main purpose. It's not that we have to keep fixing ourselves, but we're human and we need to know how to work with things. And every time we want to level up, we're going to hit a new element of ourselves that maybe we never had been introduced to before. So we have to work through that. And this helps to weaken any resistance that we start to have along the way because we've opened up these channels. We know how to observe without judging. We know how to have honest conversations with ourselves and get what we need. And that brings us to method 3, which is execution. And so here it's that point of enlightenment is great, but we also need to take action on it. So we want to take that body of knowledge that we've gained and we want to turn it into wisdom. And that wisdom is when we actually move into action by taking all of that currency, all of that energy that we've bottled up in that interior, world that we've been building, and then apply it out into the real world so that we can start getting the things that we want. We can move into our goals without being distracted. We can spend time observing our nature and having honest conversations with ourselves so that we can go and do the things, experience the life that we really want. And so all of those dreams that we have no longer are just a distant future or a faraway fantasy. We can start either bringing it towards us or moving towards them. And having these ingredients of going within, connecting to a higher source of life, and using all of this as a compass to guide us into the places that we want to go, create the big amass of wealth that you've never had before. And it helps just brighten that light and bring that like confident connection within. It builds your values, it builds your standards, it builds your conviction. And there is no money in the world that could ever buy this or replace it. So I think that developing a personal spiritual wealth is of the utmost importance, and it is a consistent practice. And it is up to you to decide how much or little time you want to spend on this. But the goal is that we're cultivating purpose and meaning, and we're creating higher levels of affluence that transform a boring life into an illuminated one. And it's this ability that allows us to stand in integrity by creating our own personal innovation. And we get to deepen our intuition because we're opening up this channel of dialogue. We're opening up this channel with source. And over time, that's ultimately going to translate into the material wealth around us. We're in alignment. We know what we want. We know where we're putting our attention. We're hitting our goals. We're moving through limiting beliefs because we've centered and we're moving every day a little bit closer. And having this rich interior world is worth more than gold. We live in a world where there's such a race to acquire all of these material goods, and we live in a modern society with all the conveniences of our wildest dreams, yet we really have a hard time and we struggle with that internal fight within us and that battle to just go and do the next thing. So I hope that I hope this inspired you to take the time to go within. I think you're worth it. I hope you think you're worth it too. Let's build a new spiritual currency for ourselves, and the world is just going to be a better place because of it. I hope this was helpful. My goal with these videos is to make these techniques that I have learned over the years as simple as possible so that they feel easy to step into and attainable. And maybe just even if you are having a wonderful spiritual practice and just wanted to watch to see if there was anything new, maybe it gives you a new perspective, inspires you to continue on your path. And I always love to dive deeper into these topics. So let me know in the comments your thoughts. And if you have anything else to add to the community about your own spiritual currency, I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate all the comments so far, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.